Well, not sure what happened there to the opening. It just sort of stopped, but that's okay. Thank you and welcome to another edition of Think, Engage, Thrive, another week where we bring you entrepreneurial stories, new entrepreneurs, and some great entrepreneurs to talk to you about what it takes to start a business and be successful. And hopefully, this will help you on your journey to being a great entrepreneur and hopefully you learn something. We try and make it interesting. We try and have people on that have great conversations and have been through a lot of different pieces. Some of the things that you'll go through, some of the things that you can expect to go through on your entrepreneurial journey. So tonight we've got Drew Donaldson, who's a serial entrepreneur. He's a growth strategist. He has his own marketing agency called GroHaus, and it's he focuses on small to medium sized businesses and helping them grow. He was in the corporate world, so he can talk to you about that. You've heard me and my stories about being in the corporate world and how much I dislike it. Not that I dislike it, I just don't fit in. It's like a square peg in a round hole, which I'm sure a lot of you that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs feel at the same time. So what we're going to talk to Drew about a lot of different things, but Drew and I had a couple of conversations before he booked on the show about some things and about how sometimes entrepreneurs get hung up by reading some of these these books on what people write about how to be successful, how to be a millionaire overnight, and you know it, we'll talk about it. We'll get into it in a bit, and you'll hear directly from Drew. And I happen to share a lot of the same thoughts that he does on some of these things. So let's bring him in and let's talk to him and see what he has to say. Hey, Drew.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking the time to join us tonight. And yeah,
Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's good having you. Why don't you take us through your whole journey, how you got to here, what you did in the past, how this whole sort of framed you, turned you into who you are, and made you decide to go in this direction.
So I really grew up in the small business community. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. My mom owned an insurance agency. My dad was an ag banker until he was 40 years old. So we were really, I had plenty of kitchen table conversations with farmers and seeing their small businesses and the behind the scenes of like what it takes to be a farmer. My whole family owns a farm out in New Jersey, so I had that. And then when my dad was 40, he started a business with his brother running a greenhouse. And so throughout my life, small businesses really were kind of the common thread from the get-go. And so I never going through college, I had these kind of high aspirations of working in production and film and television and then advertising. And it was kind of one of those things that the closer I got to corporate America, the more I started, the nice, smooth, glow, Hollywood glow started wearing thin. And all of a sudden you look around and you're surrounded by pretty ugly people. And you're like, this isn't really what I want. This isn't, I'm sure there's plenty of fine people in corporate America. I'm just saying I didn't meet a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, I really found myself at a point in my career where I was like, I need to do something different. I can't keep down this trajectory of corporate roles and
Yeah.
boardrooms and conference calls and endless pointless meetings. I was like, I need to work with people who are decision makers, who are ready to make a change, who are really ready to invigorate their marketing and give me actual results, not just give me a bunch of PowerPoint decks that I can regurgitate every 3 months to show people I'm doing actual work here. I'm earning my paycheck. And so that's where I started kind of looking outside of corporate America and saying, well, what could I do? How could I take all of these marketing skills I've collected over the years and work with those people that are like family to me, those small business owners? And right when I started having those ideas, the pandemic hit. So I started a business, immediately shuttered the business,
Yeah.
but spent the rest of the year just talking to small business owners and trying to understand, like, where are you being failed? Like, where is marketing failing the small business community? And that's really what gave me the idea to start GroHaus. The idea was like, how do I take this stuff that I know works, but make it accessible for people who are either just getting started or they're solopreneurs or maybe they're really successful, but everybody overlooks them in the marketing world because you know what? They're not ready to spend $100,000 today on some big fancy marketing plan that, let's be real, probably isn't going to be revenue positive anyway. And so I just saw an opportunity and we put together an offer and launched it. And 4 years later, we've helped hundreds of businesses launch and grow and scale and hire new employees. And it's been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of marketing. I mean, we're an agency as well, but there's a lot of marketing groups out there that um, make promises that they can't keep. And one of the things that when I first got into this, I never set out to build an agency. It's a long story, but I wound up backing into it just from a prior partnership that we had. And when we got into it and we started rolling, we decided that we weren't going to take a percentage of what we spend on advertising. We would just charge a flat fee for placing the ads. Certainly, we charge for creative and things like that. And the reason that I did that was because I think like an entrepreneur, and I've founded enough companies to know that I'm not trying to spend more money every year on advertising. I'm trying to make it more efficient. And so we sort of take that same approach with our clients to say, look, I don't want to. I think the companies that put a percentage of the spend, they really want you to spend more money. And I don't want you to spend more money on advertising. I'm trying to figure out ways that you don't spend more money, but yet you get the same sales, if not more profit, right? So anyway, it's just a different way of thinking.
Uh, well, we do the exact same thing. We do not take any percentage of our clients' spend. And funny enough, though, I think we have a lot of similarities. I ended up backing into this agency myself because I started this as a consultancy where I would tell people what they needed to do. The problem was they would then go to less than scrupulous creative shops or web builders or whatnot, and they would take all the good work I was doing with the client and deliver something that was just so mediocre that I couldn't stand it. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to be going and developing these strategies, I need a team to execute this stuff to my standard.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I'm getting a bad name for myself because, yeah, of course that didn't work. Like that website looks terrible. Of course
Yeah.
that ad doesn't look good. It looks like it was shot in 96 on a handy cam. Like I just needed to have some creative control of the output of that agency. And that's how I ended up owning an agency. I actually, when I first started, I specifically told people I'm not starting an agency. And then 3 years later, I own a thriving agency. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things that you don't always. I feel like the people that set out to build one fail. It's the people who kind of fall backwards into one that are the ones that end up succeeding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was I owned a couple of businesses, and I had founded this razor business. And you talked about Michael Phelps before. Michael Phelps was an investor in it actually. But our supplier of razors, which was one of the big two in the razor world, um, after we sold the business, we ran it for a bunch of years, and then we sold it, and they came to us and said, they came to me and said, we don't have any direct to consumer anything. Everything we do is through mass supermarkets, drug, club stores, and we want to understand direct to consumer. We don't have our websites are all B2B, nothing direct to consumer. We don't understand Amazon. We sell to Amazon, but so I started doing that for them, and again, it was sort of I was doing it, and I gave them a proposal and they were paying me. And I was sitting at dinner one night and I said to my wife, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I sold the razor business, I sold the beauty business. And, and I said, I'm doing this consulting thing, getting them set up. And she said, well, isn't that a business? And I said, well, I don't know. She said, well, I mean, if you started getting more clients doing the same thing, especially, with Amazon, because I'd been selling on Amazon since 2006. So I understood the platform really, really well. And there's a lot of companies out there. You want to talk about being scammed. I mean, there are so many people out there that claim that they understand how to sell on Amazon, and they charge money for courses, and they do all this unscrupulous stuff. And you sit there going, you got to be kidding me. So we've had to clean a lot of that up, but that's really how we started. So
Oh yeah, it's it's amazing to me how often business owners end up getting swindled by agencies like that. And I think in some ways it's kind of the rose-colored glasses. It's like you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. You want to believe the hype. You want to, you want to really buy in. Um, but like the number of horror stories I hear sitting in my seat of people that, I had a woman come in last year that spent $40,000, and the guy took off like with all of it, didn't do anything, just ran off with it. And I was like, how do you first off, morally, how do you do that to somebody? That
Yeah.
just seems so far and away from any reasonable, like I understand having a dispute over a couple $1,000s. I did the work, no you didn't, that kind of thing, and being like, I'm gonna cut ties, take my money, and block them. I get that. But like running away with the equivalent of like a used Civic is just insanity to me. But the fact that it happens again and again and again, and there's just the road to success is just littered with these businesses that could have been they could have been a contender, but they put their faith in the wrong person, they bought the wrong course, they trusted the wrong coach, and now they're broke and penniless. I had one person who, and this should have been the safest deal in the world. She developed a skincare formula that's a really phenomenal skincare. It works. It's like it solves the problem perfectly. It could have been $1 billion idea. The lawyer they hired to patented the formula for himself.
Yeah.
He stole the patent, and then he disappeared. And so it's like it's such a shame that there is so much evil that preys on entrepreneurs. And it can be incredibly disheartening for people who go through this and they buy the course and they trust the agency and they do all this. But I have to give them credit because it's very hard to keep a true entrepreneur down. They just keep coming back. They're tenacious.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do. Yeah, I agree with you. But it's just, I think social media, um, there's just so much out there of people, I can teach you how to be a millionaire tomorrow. I can teach you how to do a side hustle where you'll make $60,000 a month. Let me tell you something. And especially on Amazon or on e-commerce, we deal with it every single day. Like I said, I've been selling on Amazon since 2006, and we still are. And we help our brands, and we help our clients. It is hard work. I don't care. There is no such thing as a side hustle. You have to devote yourself to it to be successful. And so you're spending a couple of $1,000s, and those people didn't get rich selling on Amazon. They got rich selling you a $5,000 course to teach you how to sell on Amazon, and they don't know anything about it because they've never done it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the courses they should be selling is how to sell a course
Yeah,
because that's what they're really good at. But I think it's always people always they have to they have to make their bills. They have to make their mortgage. And so I think at a certain point, you've invested so much in trying to get good at something and you've hit the upper ceiling of what you're capable of doing there, which happens. It doesn't like not everybody gets to go to the MBA.
yeah,
Like it that's just not how it works, right? Like there are plenty of people who play D1 ball and never get drafted. There's
yeah,
plenty of people that end up being gym coaches, right? It just happens, and everybody has that upper threshold of what they're truly going to be capable of. And I think a lot of these guys who are Amazon sellers, yeah, they do accomplish enough. They accomplish enough to be dangerous. They accomplish enough to sell you on the idea that they're more successful than they are. But when push comes to shove, they were not able to make ends meet just doing that, so they started doing the course thing.
yeah, yeah,
And my expectation there is really based on the fact that I built courses before. They're incredibly hard work to put together, to put a good course together. You would never just put one together unless you had a strong financial motive behind it.
yeah,
Unless you were like, all right, yeah, I need to, this is going to be how I make my next, mortgage payment is going to be, I'm going to put this course together and I'm going to start selling it. If you're making 100 million a year selling on Amazon, I don't know when you're finding the time to even think about writing a course.
You're not. And the reality is that I think I can't remember the statistic off the top of my head, but I think it's 62% of the sellers on Amazon do $100,000 a year or less. There's very few that are doing that million to 10 million and all, but it's hard work. Everything running an agency is hard work, right? Running it correctly. And I don't have time to teach somebody else how to do it. I don't have time to put together a course and say, here's how you build an agency. I don't have time for it. I don't have time to write a course on how to sell on Amazon. I wrote a book a bunch of years ago, but I gave it out free. It was just to help some of our clients understand how to do it, because what we were trying to get across to them was, hey, look, I'm going to explain to you every single thing we're doing, so that when you hire somebody in the future, if we're not here, you'll know how not to get ripped off. But yeah.
And that's why I've always tried to position because I have the agency business, and then I also have a coaching and consulting business. And I've always tried to position that as like, listen, I have not started an actuarial consulting firm. I don't know anything about actuary. What I
Yeah.
do know are the tricks that I've used to build a consulting firm. It's the stuff that I can pass on to you. It's how to structure an offer. It's how to write an ad. It's how to put a landing page together. I can teach you all those things. That is going to make a difference. I'm not going to pretend that I know if an actuarial consultant is even capable of making $1 million. But if it is, I'm going to show you how I would go about doing it. And so
Yeah.
it's always that walking that line of like, yeah, no, I'm not promising you that I'm going to sit down with you and you're going to make tons of money and it's just going to pour out and it's so easy and I know everything about your industry. It's like, no, most of the time someone comes in and I'm like, I've never even heard of that industry before. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how to sell that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things I wish more course sellers would do, is just be really, really transparent with how much of their income is coming from course sales versus how much of their income is doing the Amazon thing, or whether it's Amazon or eBay or drop shipping, whatever, pick your flavor of get rich quick courseware. I just think just that alone would be a nice nod to kind of like morality.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. The other one that kills me is the guys who send the emails, or they hit you up on LinkedIn, or they run ads on social. I can 10x your sales, or I can 10x your profits, or I can 5x. And I sit there going, really? You don't know anything about my business. You don't know the industry I'm in. You don't know anything about how my business is structured. You don't even know the sales I'm doing, but you're going to tell me you can 10x it. Okay. I'm doing 10 million a year. So you're going to get me to 100 million?
yeah.
Let's go.
Well,
Show me how.
and a lot of like a lot of the guys that do that, they're paid media. It's paid media under wraps, right? Because
Yeah.
like a lot of people in the paid media world are scared of advertising themselves as paid media, because for most business owners, paid media a huge red flag,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because of the issues that we talked about 10 minutes ago of, oh well, you're just getting me to spend more so you get more. So a lot of guys, duck and dodge that kind of label, and it's like, we have a sales system, or we have this, or we have a whatever, a marketing engine. It's like, it's paid media. It's
Yeah.
like, that's all it is. It's just Facebook ads or TikTok ads or pay per click. And so I feel like there's an element there of, oh well, I can't tell you what I'm really doing, so I'm going to tell you like the results, and a big enough result to get you like interested, and
Yeah.
then get you on the sales call and sweet talk you into like, no, we're we're not going to take all your money and run away. Like, no, we're a good pay per click agency. It's like,
Yeah.
well, if you were a good pay per click agency, you would just say we're a pay per click agency, and just like, that's it. Like, I don't hide the fact that paid media is a huge part of my strategy. I lean into it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a patient man. I don't want to wait 6 months to see if this works. I want to know in 10 days. Like, I want to spend a lot of money really quick to validate the offer. And if it works, fantastic. We all go home happy. If it doesn't, let's get back to fixing it. Like, so we don't waste more money.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to me that like, when with these paid media guys, is in every single one of their sales pitches, they're like, if you ask them how long it's going to take, how long the engagement, and what's the minimum engagement? Oh, it's got to be 90 days. It's got to be 90 days.
Yeah.
Really? Like, I can make an ad work in 10. So what are you doing for the other 80? It's
Yeah.
just, you know.
That's a good analogy, because I learned, we were doing a business many years ago, And one of our investors said we should do direct response television. This is back, you know, over 15 years ago. And I said, well, I'm game. I've never done direct response TV. So we built the offer, which was the commercial. And we were doing e-commerce, and it was before Amazon. But and then you meet with the media buying agency, like, it's going to take, don't expect results right away. It's going to take, a period of time. And, we've got to test, you've got to find the right audience, and the right shows. And for your audience, we want to be on these channels and blah, blah, blah. And we actually wound up running a Super Bowl ad, but not on the Super Bowl, but actually on the pregame stuff on ESPN, which cost a fortune and did nothing. And I was tired of, we literally spent millions. And what I realized was that I started watching where I was getting the returns from on the shows. And it occurred to me that it had nothing to do with the television channels, had nothing to do with the audience, because they don't even know who the audience was at the time. Today, it's a little different with connected TV, but at the time, it was all just guesswork. And what I realized was I was spending, for example, $100 to do a 30-second spot on Fox Sports 2. And I was spending, I don't know, 50 or $60 to do 15-second spot. And all I needed to do, because I was selling my product for $25, right? All I really needed to do was sell 4 units during that during that 30-second to make my money back, right? 5 units and I'm profitable. And so it occurred to me that has nothing to do with the demographics, had nothing to do with all these channels, had everything to do with spot cost, right? So I stopped using media buyers and I started buying it myself. And I just started buying spots that were cheap enough. I didn't care if they were running overnight. I didn't care where they were running. And they were just cheap enough for me to see. And like you said, I would run it for a week, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, and I would start to see the return. And then I was like, okay, well, we'll just keep running that. But, these other guys taking 30, 60, 90 days, and you're just burning through cash and you're going, something doesn't seem right here. It's the same thing with ads. So you take that same mentality and you put it on any ad platform, whether it's Google or whether it's, DSPs or whatever. You can see very quickly if that ad is doing what it's supposed to be doing. If it's supposed to be getting people to come back, hit a landing page, sign up, do whatever. You're 100% right. Sitting there 90 days just burning through cash.
And that's a huge issue for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially when they're starting out, because paid
Yeah.
media really is the single greatest way to validate an offer. Because your friends and family aren't going to tell you your idea is bad, but a bunch of strangers are going to be real quick to. And so it scares a lot of people because they get this conflicting kind of report, right? They watch a TikToker or a YouTuber and they say, "Oh, you can get results on Facebook for $4 a day." And so they run for $4 a day and they don't get anything. It's like, well, of course you're not getting anything. Like your CPM is even for a small audience is so high on even on Facebook, which tends to be one of the cheaper platforms. You're just not getting to enough people with $4 a day.
Right.
Now, you take that person and you watch it slowly drain their bank account over the next 10 days. That's 10 days of losses that they're going to feel. Boy, it would have been a heck of a lot better to run it for one day at 50.
Yeah.
And if you go over 3 months of that at $4 a day and they've made nothing, boy, it would have made a whole lot more sense to run it $50 a day for a week, because
Yeah.
you will know. Like it's that's the thing. Like, Facebook, Google, TikTok, they all want you to spend more money, right?
Yeah.
That's their main motive. If you ever talk to a Facebook ads consultant,
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
notice that their only advice is, "Oh, you really should increase the budget." It's the only thing they have to share. So, like, at the end of the day, your ad cost does need to be high enough. They're not lying, but you don't need to wait 30 days.
Yeah.
Like, just spend enough money in a short period of time to have the market go, "Yeah, no, send me one of those," or "Yeah, no, I'm interested in that webinar," or "Let me book a call with you,"
Yeah.
right? And if after 10 days, I usually say like $500 for most offers is enough to validate it.
Yeah.
right? And again, part of this is your sale price and all that stuff. But for most people, if you spend $500 on paid media and you don't get a return, good chance your offer is not working.
Yeah.
It's not. You need to go back to the drawing board. You need to think, what did I miss? Why is the pain point that I'm hitting here not connecting with the audience? Why do they not? Why is there a disconnect? Why aren't people clicking the ad? Why aren't people filling out the form? Whatever it is.
Yeah. I agree with you. I wholeheartedly. It's you know, we again, we do a lot of work. We primarily focus on e-commerce. We primarily focus on consumer products, which puts us into the world of Amazon.com, your website, Walmart.com, any place else that we can get the product listed. If it's applicable to Etsy or Wayfair, we'll do that too. But the difference of spending money on Amazon.com versus Facebook or Google is what you just said. Facebook, Meta, Google, they're advertising platforms. They want you to spend more money on advertising. Amazon is a sales platform. They want to sell more product. So you can actually get very efficient on Amazon, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to take advantage of everything that Amazon has to offer. And Amazon has a DSP, by the way. You just have to, I think the minimum is 15,000 a month, but it's very effective. And Amazon also has now connected TV on Fire TV, if you have the right sort of platform. And the minimum I think is like $5,000, but it's effective because you've got this immediate way for the customer to then go. Well, first of all, you're targeting, because it's connected TV, so you're targeting exactly who you want to target, because you know who they are. They're logged in, so you know exactly who they are. And then the second part of that is you've got this return. You're going to get customers that are going to see the ad and they're going to buy the product right away, because Amazon makes it easy, whether it's through a QR code or whether it's just through, a link, whatever it is. So you see the returns, you see the results, and it becomes a very effective platform for products, for the right products. So,
What's interesting is Etsy has a similar platform, and I used to have. I don't do as much e-com business anymore. Most of my clients are professional services. I do have a couple clients in my books right now that are in the e-com space, because they have really unique products, or they kind of came as a referral, that kind of thing. But very beginning of the business, we had a lot of e-com folks and a lot of Etsy sellers. That was kind of one of our core demos when we first launched the agency.
yeah.
And what was fascinating to me was how effective Etsy ads were. And then all of a sudden, they just dried up. And suddenly it wasn't about, they weren't nearly as efficient as what we could do on Facebook or TikTok or these other platforms that, if you look at it just on a numbers game, like Etsy should be Etsy should be much more competitive, but it wasn't. And it wasn't a matter of the product quality, because the stores we were promoting had great reviews, reoccurring business, subscribers, the whole nine. It really just came down to, like, it seemed like a absolute cliff hit, and this would have been back in 2021 ish. So have you noticed that over time on the Etsy platform? Has things kind of rolled off the cliff with their advertising?
We had two clients that we were using on Etsy, and both of them were uh, essentially home decor, home textile, home decor products, which were also on Wayfair. And the in the beginning, we had some really good results. My feeling was that they changed the algorithm and tried to, uh, I think, didn't want to be as efficient because they weren't making as much advertising dollars. So they tried to mess with the algorithm and they messed it up. And so
Mm,
we have good days and bad days with it. Um, but the product sale price is so high that if they sell one a month, they're fine. They paid for the advertising and they're happy with it, because it's not exactly a daily purchase, right? And
right.
so, um, but it is a struggle. It is a struggle. But we also find that even if we advertise on other platforms, whether we're advertising on the Meta side or we're advertising on Google, people will find it on Etsy and buy it on Etsy. Or shopping ads, Google shopping ads will have it
Mhm.
show up. And so, there's a million different ways to drive it. As you're on multiple platforms, it becomes a little bit more difficult to sort of pinpoint the ROAS, um, where you're getting the best, because you find that you say, okay, well, I'm going to put less money here because this ROAS is lower. But then when you find that it affects other things, so we try and look at it on a macro level with a lot of clients, because they're in so many different platforms.
I
So
think that's kind of what you have to do. Like, you have to be, in order to run a successful retargeting operation, you really have to be in all places. And I'm always like pleasantly surprised when I see a brand I like doing it effectively, because so many people just totally miss the boat on retargeting.
yeah,
But to your point, attribution becomes an absolute nightmare if you're trying to calculate ROAS on an individual platform basis, because it's just impossible to know exactly what was it, right? When did they make the decision? Was it when they saw the ad on Facebook and then their kid ran into the room with brownie batter in their hair and they had to throw their phone on the couch, and then they saw the ad on Instagram 2 days later and they were like, oh yeah, I was going to buy that? Like, it's just impossible. I know from experience. So I don't know when that moment is happening, and I don't think there's really any way for Facebook to tell you. Like, I don't think we're up at we're not at a level of corporate spying to the level of they'll know, read your mind of when that's happening and exactly what ad, what platform, what combination gave it. So I look at it the same way. It's like it's add up all your spend, assume that you are touching them on multiple platforms, and then are you positive or negative? If you're negative, well, then we need to make some adjustments. But as long as you're positive and you're seeing growth, then yeah, it's chasing attribution ghosts is that's a full-time job for somebody else.
yeah. Well, we my God, my dogs are barking. We A couple of years ago, we did a study. This is now, God, it's got to be 10 years ago. We did a study on consumer traffic for e-commerce, and we looked at about 50 or 60 sites. I can't remember exactly how many were in there, and we put attribution on the sites, and we were watching the traffic, and what we realized was that when a customer sees your ad, doesn't matter where they see it. They could see it on Google, they could see it on Meta, they could see it anywhere. And when they see that ad, the first thing they do is they go to your website. Now they're not going to buy from your website because you haven't built a relationship with them, so they don't trust you. They don't want to give you the credit card information. They don't know if you're legit or not. Then they look at your social media and they want to see if your social media branding corresponds with your website branding. And then they go to Amazon and they'll buy the product on Amazon 85% of the time for the first sale. And it is because Amazon has an A to Z guarantee. Amazon, they know they're not going to lose their credit card information. They know they're not going to get ripped off. So Amazon plays a vital role in consumer trust. Everybody can bash Amazon to death. Walmart can bash Amazon to death, but Amazon has built consumer trust, and they've made it easy with the app for people to buy. And I'm sure you exhibit the same behavior. I know I do. First time I hear about something that I want to buy, I go to Amazon and I look to see if they have it, and then if they do, I just push the button and I buy it. So that's how you sort of use Amazon in that customer journey. So you're 100% right. All those pieces are important in the entire sale, and they all have to be connected via the brand.
100%. I mean, the brand element here is really interesting, especially for something like e-commerce, because you're never going to speak to a human for the most part on
Yeah,
in e-commerce. If you're super high ticket e-commerce, then there may be, some level of like concierge sale, or if you're an old school magazine business where, like a Land's End or an LL Bean, where there's a demographic there that still calls in and orders from the magazine. It's got to be fading. There's got to be like two people in their call center nowadays, but like it's still a thing. Unless that's happening, all of the trust really does have to be built automatically off of that brand presence. And what I've found is in the professional services space where we operate a lot, because there's always the promise of some type of interaction, whether it's like an application funnel or a call funnel or even just a webinar funnel. The level of trust on those is far higher immediately because there's that promise of, hey, I'm going to interact with another human and I'm going to be able to kind of sniff them out myself. And so what I've been shocked about is how few times people that come through my funnel ever visit my website, ever look me up on social media. There might be a couple people who will go and watch the testimonials on my site because after they book a call, right underneath it, there's all my testimonials. And so they can kind of watch. And so a lot of people watch those. And then some people go out and see like places I've spoken and podcasts I'm on and all that kind of stuff. So occasionally that will happen. But it seems like there is a huge difference in this particular area between an e-com buyer who they don't get that opportunity to talk to a person and really suss out, hey, is this business owner? Are they just a drop shipper? Are they just someone that's, hawking stuff from Alibaba? Or is this a real guy making a real product that I should support?
Yeah.
And so because you're missing that element, all of those things, the website, the branding on social, the cohesion between all of your assets is super important. Like you cannot miss one piece of that. Otherwise you're it's like blowing a giant hole in your ship and you're just losing, you're just taking on water every minute that you don't have your Facebook. If your last Facebook post was last year's Super Bowl, like that doesn't look good. Doesn't look like a viable business.
No, and people react to that. They do react to that. You're 100% right. It all has to look the same, and it really becomes, unfortunate for a lot of larger companies because they start doing things in silos. They'll start to say, well, this is the social media team, or even worse, this is the Facebook team, this is the Instagram team, this is the TikTok team, this is our website team, this is our Amazon team. And it becomes disjointed because nothing is working together. We saw that with a major spice company that's based in around here that we spoke to, and everything is, you've got to speak to 50 different people, and you go, God, it's not the way to do it, man.
Well, I think one of the reasons that happens is because there's this idea that your brand needs to take on different personas for the different channels you're on. And there is some truth to that. But the way I would look at it is if you have a core persona that people like take Wendy's, for example. The Wendy's Twitter team or X team, whatever you want to call them, is probably one of the greatest social media teams ever out there. Whoever manages the r/GA Twitter account for that agency is phenomenal. Love that guy. Love whoever does that. I love them. They have a really strong audience on those platforms because of what they post, because they're kind of snarky, because the stuff they post is off the cuff and not the corporate branded stuff. But the big mistake is then having a Facebook account that is just as plain and Jane as they come, or having a LinkedIn profile that's as plain and Jane as you come because of, oh, well, these are different buyers. It's like, yeah, but do you realize how jarring that is for someone who really loves how you are on one platform to now visit you on another platform and it feels like a different brand? It feels like you're not as engaged. It feels like you're not as in the as into the calling as the other platforms. I would rather you just not be on the platform.
Yeah.
Like if like and this is one of the only reasons we have maintained a Facebook profile at all. Besides, my personal profile is because it's all my family's there and everything, right? Just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But the reason we've kept a business profile there is purely because we have clients that advertise on those platforms, and it would be kind of weird to have a client come in and be like, "Well, you guys don't do Facebook, right?" And I go, "No, we do. We don't have our own profile because we don't like it, but we'll do it for you." It just comes across as very disingenuous, so you can't do that. But I've thought a lot about like, man, you know what? I like Twitter and I like TikTok, and I'm just going to do those two. And I'm, maybe I'll do a little bit of LinkedIn stuff, but that's all I really want to participate in. I don't really want to participate in these other channels. But as marketing, I don't know if you feel the same way as a marketing agency. There is this call of the wild that we have to be in all these places. We have to plant our flag in every place. Otherwise, we're not the true Scotsmen. We're not the true marketers. Unless we have a profile on every burgeoning platform out there.
Well, we do post on. Well, there's two pieces, right? Because I do also have a coaching business, so that I use to. I post on all platforms, more only because uh, I'm trying to figure out where I'm getting the most bang for my buck, and where I'm communicating the best, right? Whether it's YouTube Shorts or YouTube or Facebook. I mean, Instagram's a little different, but Crunch Growth itself, we're on all platforms. Well, we're not on TikTok, but we have plans to do that. But we are on Shorts and Facebook and Meta, Twitter, X. I don't really do much on. We used to, but it got a little weird. So we sort of pulled we sort of pulled back. But we post a lot of content. We post a lot of uh, written content and video content, and so we do have automations that push it out. So it's not like a big difficult thing for us, right? It's not time consuming, and we do a lot with AI to generate what we're trying to say. So, but I understand what you're saying, and a lot of agencies aren't. A lot of agencies don't want to be, and I don't blame them. I mean, it's a pain in the neck. I just have different. I I guess what I try and do is test stuff with us bef- so that I know how something's going to react um, with someone else. I guess is my point. If that makes any sense.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we started on TikTok. I'd been a user since the Musically days. Like I kind of caught on
Oh yeah,
when Gary V first called it out, and I thought it was the most insane prediction. Like, what, this app with a bunch of 14-year-old girls lip sync? This is the new, like, this is gonna be it. And like, I'll give him credit where credit. He was 100% right. He called that before anybody else. And but I downloaded it back then to check it out. And so when it started change, and even before it was TikTok, but it started to bring in stuff that wasn't just music, and then it transitioned to TikTok and all of this. I was in it as a user, and I even signed up for their beta of their ads platform. I was invited in. I tried to set up a campaign. It went like terror, like I
yeah,
couldn't get it set up, and so I just gave up on it. And it wasn't until I launched a Facebook campaign that had previously done really well, and it just ate up my money and didn't give me any results. That I was like, I got to try something new. I went back on TikTok. We ran two ads that failed. The third ad has absolutely crushed. We continue to run that ad to this day because it works so well. And so we really were the guinea pigs on that platform, mastered it, and then brought it to our clients and said, this is it. Like, I know, like, we've been saying, like, for you guys, stick to Facebook, build on Facebook. Once you perfect it, go to LinkedIn. But it was like, here's a whole nother avenue. And yeah, it's going to cost more. But my advice to you is cancel your weekend plans and get on TikTok, man. No platform has made me more money than TikTok. TikTok is easily has easily pulled in well north of seven figures alone, just on that one platform, because the audience is so big. It's such a huge audience. There's tons of decision makers on it because
yeah,
everybody has a TikTok.
yeah.
Even people that don't want to admit it have a TikTok, and the ad platform is probably the best in the business. So yeah, I'm big bullish on TikTok.
The new ad platform, because the ad
Oh,
platform,
the original one was,
was
we
terrible.
don't talk about the original one.
We we tried to be on the marketplace for one of our clients. They wanted to be on the marketplace, and they have a product that works well on TikTok. It's fun. You can do a lot of things with it, and we were on it prior, and nothing worked. And about I guess about maybe back in September, when they rolled out the new marketplace, which goes along with the advertising platform, we got on it. We started to see some really good results, and we started to get orders, and it even surprised me because we weren't spending a lot of money. We were spending very little money, and a lot of it was occurring naturally because you just tag the products, and when you've got your store on there, and it's really done. I was amazed at what it's done. So
I mean, I think the thing that is like, and I think there's a balance they're constantly trying to strike, and I will give it to TikTok that they are constantly reinventing that platform in new and interesting ways, and
Yeah.
they take user feedback pretty seriously, more so than Facebook. Like, TikTok users will say, I really don't like this feature, and TikTok will remove the feature. They'll be like, okay, we get it. Mark Zuckerberg never did that. Mark Zuckerberg just doubled down. He'd remove a feature, people would complain, he'd be like, you're idiots, and then just continue on his merry way. So I mean, there's an element of like this, like, open sourceness to TikTok, even though it's not open source, but like that they really do appreciate the community, and they're constantly evolving it. And I think what's really fascinating about the shop is that they've made shopping fun. They've made it like a game. They've really made it this experience that, and again, all things in moderation, right? They went and did too many shop posts, and people got irritated, so they brought that back down, and now there's ways to kind of filter that stuff out, and they have their own channel. But just, I cannot tell you the number of things my wife has ordered off of TikTok shop
Yeah.
that were cool things, like, wow, I didn't know this thing existed, right? And whether
Right.
it's, organic laundry detergent, or it's my wife bought me this, I don't know if I still have it up here, my daughter might have taken it, this little, like, woven fidget thing that she got me for Christmas. She's like, oh, I thought it was cute on TikTok, so I bought it for you. So it's like, it's just, it makes it so that, shopping is more of that experience of going to the mall in the 90s and seeing all the stuff and getting excited by, oh, look at that and look at that, or even going and watching like a demo, like one of those Cutco demos at the boardwalk with the
Yeah.
hawker. Like, it's just, it makes shopping an experience again. Whereas before, even when I do my Christmas shopping on Amazon, it's like, it's a list. I'm
Yeah.
just going through and adding stuff, like, okay, I think this would work. I think this, it's more of a task than it is like something that I engage in, you know? And TikTok has really created a platform that's, I've not seen anything like it. I don't think there's really any platform that has done shopping better than TikTok in the social media age.
Yeah. It is working. I will tell you that I dread setting up products on it because I
Oh
think
yeah.
that they've made the back end of it, the setup side of it, very convoluted. It should be seamless. It should be fairly simple, but it is multi-step, and then the validation of it all. It's just it's a little weird. I understand why they're doing it, but it was set up by engineers and not by somebody in e-commerce. That's for sure. But once the consumer facing side, it seems to work. But listen,
Hmm.
we got into a conversation and we just never stopped, and we're almost out of time. So yeah, any parting words for budding entrepreneurs out there? One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, which we never talked about, but we probably have a couple of minutes to go, is we talked about all these different like books and pundits and guys that uh, you know, uh, come up with these concepts of, how to become a millionaire overnight, or how to do this or how to do that. And, I have the same sort of, I think, view on that as you do, which is, sort of stick to, none of them know what you're going through. None of them know what your business is. And so you have to sort of think about how this fits for you, because just because it worked for one guy doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you.
100%. I mean, I think this is not to knock everyone who's ever written a book or a guide or is trying to, enlighten people in their methods, because there's plenty of books out there on business and marketing that I've found incredibly influential.
Yeah.
However, when you read something like Alan Weiss's $1 Million Consultant, it's great if you want to learn how Alan Weiss became $1 million consultant. It's not great if you're trying to become $1 million consultant,
Right.
because you're not Alan Weiss.
Right.
You're not, it's the same thing as a 4 Hour Work Week, which we talked about previously. 4 Hour Work Week's incredibly interesting book. I tried it. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work the way it's advertised, because there's no, even that's a huge book. It doesn't matter how many pages in that book. Nothing is going to give me Tim Ferriss's, all of his knowledge, all of his experience, all of the connections he made, the timing, everything, to be able to read that book, take it, and execute it. What it is going to give me is some goals. It's going to say, you know what, there's better ways to live than burning yourself out at both ends.
Yeah.
You're spending 60 hours a week in a job you don't like.
Yeah.
That's good inspiration. But I think all of these books really need to be taken with a big grain of salt. And you know, there is no quick way to get rich besides the lottery. You know,
Yeah.
like that's really it. You know, the lottery or maybe getting hit by a city bus. Those
Yeah.
are your two options for really getting loaded in a hurry. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of hard work, but you should lean into it. Like, hard work is good for the body, it's good for the mind, it's good for the soul. Like, lean into that. It makes you a better person. And you know, in terms of parting thoughts, I think the biggest thing, the biggest thing that will make you more money in the next 10 years than anything you'll read out of any book is if you lead with empathy. If you
Yeah.
lead with empathy in your business, towards your customers, to your employees, towards every person you engage with, you will outperform every single other person in your market, because none of them will do it. Because empathy is hard. It's not something we're trained to do. It's something that we live in an empathy negative society where people aren't giving that up. So if you are the person that shows compassion, that shows empathy for your neighbor, you stand out. That's how I grew my business. That's how I teach everybody to grow their business. And so if you want one takeaway from all this, besides all the chitter chatter on inside baseball of ad networks, it's lead your business with empathy.
Yeah. That's great. Hey, Drew, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I appreciate you taking the time, and really enjoyed the conversation. Some great points. So, but unfortunately, we're out of time.
It was great being here, Phil. I enjoyed the conversation also.
All right. Thanks. Have a good night.
So yeah.
Hey, folks, great conversation. We ran way over. We've got about 3 minutes left, and I've got to run a few quick commercials. So, again, join us next week. We've always got interesting guests on. We've always got interesting entrepreneurs on. Again, go to my website, philmasiello.com. And you can download a free business planning guide. It's free. There's no charge to it. But again, we're out of time, and I got to leave you with a couple of parting videos. Here goes. We're exposed to over 5,000 ads every day. We see ads everywhere. So it's no surprise that consumers need to see an ad multiple times before they take action. Our clients love us because Crunch Growth makes your brand stand out online. Our team creates content that makes better ads, better posts, better videos that break through the clutter. Crunch Growth's team has been working in the digital world since the dawn of e-commerce. From social media to advertising to Amazon management to web design and development to branding, we help your brand succeed online profitably. Contact us at www.crunchgrowth.com.